joined right now by Akiva Spiegelman, a Likud activist, a media consultant, coming to us from Jerusalem, and Yariv Oppenheimer in the studio with us, the project director of the Two-State Coalition, the Geneva Initiative, and former director of Peace Now. So thanks for being with us, both of you. Yariv, I'll start with this in studio. Come to you. Given the sustained look, big picture discussion here for both of you. Okay, the sustained waves of terror, the overall rejectionist politics from the Palestinian national movement, frustration among West Bank residents, Jewish West Bank residents, that nothing's changing. If not growth at this point, what else is expected of this movement in 2023?
I think that what we are seeing from the West Bank is mostly despair. People are fed up. They don't know what they can do. The Palestinians see the Israeli public again and again elect a government that is not committed to the ideas of the two-state solution. So they feel despair, and I don't think it's work in our favor. And when you hear the official statement of this government about the record-breaking numbers of new settlements construction, so the Palestinians feel that they have nothing to do against it. They didn't vote for the Israeli parliament. They didn't vote for this coalition. They are not part of the Israeli society. They are not Israeli citizens. So they can go to the UN, to the US, and to ask the international community to interfere. Or some of them are acting with terror because of this despair. This government is not going to start a negotiation with the Palestinians. The opposite. They are doing whatever they can in order to damage and to harm the option to have the two-state solution, to have a political solution to this conflict. And I am afraid that the legacy of this government in the West Bank will be a very problematic for the idea of the two-state solution in the future.
There's certainly a lot of room for concern around that, given their activities in the first 6 months. So, Akiva, to draw you into this, look, the country's tried putting up walls, deploying dozens of IDF battalions, basically stonewalling. Look, the maximalist Palestinian Authority. None of that has led to a sustainable situation on the ground in the West Bank or peaceful life for residents of the West Bank. So what is the path forward here? Is this government taking a new path for Israel?
So all we can hope at this point is to find a real partner to bring up these ideas of peace, of building a society together. As of now, there's no one to talk to. We've been trying over the years, and things are actually changing with the Abraham Accords that brought on a big change in the Arab world, more dialogue, more acceptance towards even the idea of a Jewish state. But until now, there's nobody in the Palestinian Authority who's willing to have a real conversation about peace. And that's where we're at right now. The settlers are trying to also, while we're having these discussions, while we're trying to create any kind of dialogue, they're trying to protect themselves, and the recent unfortunate events have made it very difficult to go forward.
This is very, we need to put a focus on that. The settlers in the last weekend didn't try to protect themselves. They attack Palestinian innocent civilians. How do I know? Because when I see the picture, it's not coming from the settlements. You see burned houses in the Palestinian villages. You see burned cars in the Palestinian villages. If you want to protect yourself, you are not trying to burn a mosque or a school like the settler did. So this is,
Yariv,
sometimes we need to give the fact some room in the discussion.
Yes,
Akiva. There is some context that need to be said at this also. There was an attack last week. There is a
context to burn in school? What is the context of burning school?
No, there's no justification. What there is,
but
though,
this is what they did.
You take into account that last week there was a murderous attack.
So this is a revenge.
Died. It's not a revenge, and everyone condemned it. It's unacceptable. People should not be taking the law into their hands. That's obvious. That's a given. But to ignore the fact that there was an event before that is belittling the topic.
This is justification. But it's a bigger picture. In the bigger picture, we see this government. You said that there is no partner. I don't see the Israeli partner. This government is committed to destroy the idea of the two-state solution. This government is committed not to push forward any political process with the Palestinian. And what we tried in the past is to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority, to give them self-control, and it worked.
And
we see that it's collapsed because there is no political process. Yes.
Look, there's no one thing's for certain. There's no voice for peaceful coexistence emerging right now from the top of Palestinian leadership. And you can argue this is the same on the Israeli side, but this is a new Israeli government. The Palestinian Authority has been there a long time, especially Mahmoud Abbas. The dominant groups, in fact, on the political stage of the Palestinian arena are terrorist organizations, Yariv. So at this point, what are Israeli leaders left to do? Who do they address? Where else do they go except to harden the positions in the West?
Abbas constantly is talking about the two-state solution and about negotiation with Israel. We know that he was a guest in Benny Gantz's house in the previous government. Today, there was a conversation between the defense minister and a minister in the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is willing to renegotiate with Israel anytime, but let's negotiate over the maps, let's negotiate over the settlements, over the issue of borders, and about the situation right now. What we are seeing that the senior ministers in this government, Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, these are the ones that are not ready even to speak with the Palestinians. They are not ready to meet a Palestinian minister. They are saying that to raise a village is something that the government should do. Therefore, I don't see a partner. I do see the security minister, Yoav Gallant, trying to keep some connections alive. But we see this government that is totally hostile to the peace camp in the Palestinian side, meaning today the Palestinian Authority. Because we do have discussions with them, we can cooperate with them, we can manage the issues with them, but there is no address in Jerusalem.
Akiva, you have a response to this? I have other issues to bring up. Yeah.
I disagree. I think there is an address, but right now, even we've seen in even left-wing governments that even when we've given the max, we've offered the max, they're not willing to go the minimum distance. We've seen that in various governments, not just this one. And I think if there was a real partner to talk to, things would change.
Akiva, look, let's bring in another layer to this here, okay? This gets a lot of negative attention from around the world, and not just attention, whether it be the United States condemnations, European actions are already being taken, all right? The U.S. has moved to end, science and technology collaboration with entities in the West Bank, Ariel University for one. What about the consequences that come from this? Is this deemed now to be less important? It just doesn't matter anymore what the international community thinks or says or does. Move forward in the West Bank no matter what? What appears to be the mentality?
First of all, of course it matters. We always take into account the political atmosphere that we're in. We're aware. We're trying to work with the government here is working with the American government as much as they can. It's been difficult. Everyone's seen that. Everyone's been very focused on a visit, which is probably the least important thing right now. The most important thing is to understand the facts on the ground right now. And like I said before, when we try to offer peace offerings or when we try to have dialogue, there's nobody to talk to on the other side. And when the Americans don't acknowledge the fact that the Palestinian Authority is not willing to have a real dialogue, maybe they put on faces, they say they want to have a dialogue, they don't want to have a dialogue, and there's nowhere to go.
I totally disagree, but let's assume that there is no partner. Let's assume I disagree with that. This is the reason why the Israeli government can do whatever it likes in the West Bank. This is the reason why we can move more Israelis from inside Israel to new settlements. This is the reason why we should allow the settlers to do crimes against the Palestinians and atrocities and
again,
not to react.
Nobody agreed to those crimes. Everyone condemned that.
No, but no one condemned the unilateral move, for example, to build more construction in the West Bank and take in more Palestinian land, future Palestinian state land, and to give it to the settlers. This is something that the government is doing out loud.
Palestinian lands is a whole different conversation, but it's not. Those are Jewish lands, and Israel is the only democracy that is, and the only place where Jews are allowed to be is in Israel.
So the Palestinians there should have the same rights like you. But let's see what's going on around the world. The democratic world is looking at the Israeli government, and it says to himself, what do I have any connection with these people? We don't share the same values. These people are not in favor of democracy. Therefore, we will see Netanyahu going to China, to Beijing, before he's going to Washington. Because the new family of countries that are friends of Israel becoming China, maybe Russia, it will not be the United States, not the EU, because this government is against the idea of the two-state solution. It's against the idea of democracy, and it serves the values of the extreme settlers.
Akiva, I know that this was mentioned here, but the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, did speak, with his Palestinian, or I don't know if it's his counterpart, but entities, members of the Palestinian Authority here, still trying to keep coordination alive, trying to keep ties alive, talking about calming the situation down. Likud perspective, we heard Prime Minister Netanyahu also talk about preserving the Palestinian Authority. So what appears to be the nuance being taken by the Likud party right now in terms of keeping the Palestinian Authority alive, but not too much power?
Well, we're aware of the issues in the Palestinian Authority, but that's the only body that we can have any kind of conversation with. If the Palestinian Authority should fall, we're going to have a bigger terror issue in the West Bank, and that's not something we want. So, of course, we're going to try to work with whoever we can, knowing the alternative is much worse.
With that, I can agree, by the way. But I don't see this government doing it because the strongest part of this government, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, and some ministers of the Likud as well, they are totally committed to the idea of destroying the Palestinian Authority, taking over, building more settlements, and making the idea of sometimes in the future the two-state solution impossible. This is where they are aiming. These are the strongest forces in this government, and what we are seeing is violence all day.
I've had some Palestinians tell me that they would like to see Israel push the Palestinian Authority into elections, to hold democratic elections for them, to do other things besides just coordinate on a security level, pursuing what would be the Palestinian Authority's political enemies, Israel's terrorist enemies. Now, is there room for Israel to do something like that, to actually encourage democratic process?
I don't think so. I don't think that we should get involved in the internal issues of the Palestinians. We should deal with any government that will be elected as long as they recognize a past agreement, meaning that even if Hamas is being elected, if they are recognize the Oslo agreement and they are ready to follow it, so we need to negotiate with anyone that is elected if we would like to see election. Yeah. I think that in the previous time when the Palestinians would like to have an election, Israel didn't allow to have it in East Jerusalem. Not in the last election, Israel allowed it, but it was a long time ago. In the last attempt to make an election, and it was a very good excuse for the PLO not to run. We need to remember that we are talking about the Palestinian politics. The number one candidate, the most popular one, is Barghouti. He is in the Israeli jail, but he is a great supporter of the two-state solution. He believes that there is a political solution to this conflict. I don't see Israel recognize him being elected or release him in order to negotiate and to find a solution.
Also, a murderer terrorist. We have to acknowledge the fact that he's a persona non grata for a very good reason. He's been in prison for he's responsible for the death of hundreds of Jews.
You know that Anwar Sadat was responsible also for many Israelis that killed in the 73 war, and eventually we negotiate with him.
It's different. This is terror.
I know. Eventually it's blood, and Anwar Sadat had Israeli blood on his hands, and eventually we made peace with him. I think that what is important is the future, and I'm saying that in the Palestinian side,
and I don't think that the Palestinian Authority or Barghouti want a future for the state of Israel. I don't think they recognize the fact that there should be a Jewish state.
I'm just saying that the Palestinian society support a person that support the two-state solution. They are not supporting Hamas. They are not supporting the destruction of Israel. They are supporting a candidate that is speaking out loud, even from the Israeli jail, about the two-state solution. We need to take it into consideration when we are talking about the other side.
Akiva, to bring up the sort of impetus of our chat today, these thousands of settlement homes, an unprecedented number already being approved in June, just the first half of this year. Are we likely to see much more of this? Is this the policy to come for the second half of the year as well from this ruling coalition?
It's hard to tell, but right now this government on that matter is very much standing behind its promise to form a right-wing government that strengthens the settlements. And we hope to see more building. We hope to see the expansion of the existing settlements, because when we affirm our right for our state, that's when we're strong, and that's when people understand that we're here to stay. So the more we pull back,
I respect that. I can
time for this.
But what is the vision? One state that is not democratic and not Jewish. What is the vision of this?
The question looming over us all. Akiva, thanks for joining us. Thank you both. Always more to say on this subject. It's all the time we have for today, though. We'll be back, though. Much more coming your way. Stay with us.